Hi guys, what's up? So today we're going to be looking at scientifically proven ways to study effectively. And these are some of the methods that I've tried in the past and they've helped me tremendously. So the first thing that we need to do in active studying is to identifying the important information. Now, a lot of people have asked, how do you identify what is the most important thing? Because most of us tend to think that everything is important. So what has previously helped me is to look at what the core concept of the content is, and also looking at past papers because usually they give you a vague idea of what is being tested on and what to focus on. I mean, it's not to say that you're going to ignore everything else, but it usually does give you an hint of on what to focus most on. Secondly, you need to organize the information. Now, this is an important step because this is where you need to create a framework which facilitates memorization based on what works best for you. Obviously, because most of us are different types of learners, whether you're an auditory learner or a visual learner or a kinetic learner. So your organization of your content needs to be based around what will work best for you, for whether it's making flashcards or whether it's making charts. It just depends on what works best for you overall. Next is memorizing the information, which is probably the most important but procrastinated step because usually it is the most daunting task of getting to study. But there's different ways in which you can memorize, and this is also based on what is going to be best for you, whether you like writing out notes or whether you like reading out information. This depends on how you're going to do it best. But spaced repetition is what I've found to be the most effective method of studying for me as well, and also a lot of my colleagues in med school. So, which is basically based on the idea that you need to repeat the information at regular intervals, and over time, your retention of the content will increase. Now, what do you do with all the information that you've memorized? Obviously, you need to be able to apply the information to more complex situations, and the only way you can do this is to practice more and more past papers or questions or question banks. You can actually get quite a lot of them online on Quizlet and on websites, whether it's for the USMLE or whether it's for board exams. But the only way you can actually increase your score is by practicing more past papers. Now that we've looked at the active part of studying, we need to look at what study tips in general there are to be successful in your studies. So the first thing that you need to do is review your material regularly. Now this comes back to the spaced repetition concept that you need to actually set aside a routine or a time every day that I need to study and I need to get it done. Because if you don't review the material regularly, over time your retention of the content is going to decrease. So reviewing the material regularly is very important. Now the next thing is creating or choosing an effective learning environment. Now this is also a preference because some people like to study in the library because it's really quiet and to be away from all the busyness of life. And then other people try to study at home, which is definitely the more preferable option now that we're in a global pandemic. But this is also based on what works best for you as a student. But I think having a regular environment that you work in every day is going to motivate you to be focused for that period of time, because if you're constantly changing your environment, your mind is not going to be focused on the work but rather on the new environment or the new place that you're in. Another thing that I've found to be extremely helpful in medical school is mnemonics, because you're literally taking arbitrary information, especially like remembering the nerves in the pathways that are not easy to consolidate. But by making a mnemonic out of it, you're going to remember it because it's like an easier way to remember the information. So this is definitely a big one if you're studying information that's not always related but needs to be studied. A study group, this is obviously advised only if you know that you're able to work in a study group, because some people just really don't perform well in a study group. But I would say that if your study group is large, it's going to be nearly impossible to get the work done, because to match everybody's timetables and to make sure that everybody's on board all the time can get more of a managing task than actually getting down to studying. So this should only be once in a while if you're doing it, and definitely not an everyday thing. Also, obviously remembering that only do it if you think you can do it. And the last and the most important step is to take care of yourself, because the more physically and mentally fit you are, the better student you're going to be, and the better you're going to be able to focus, whether you're in school, whether now that we're studying online, and while you're writing your exams. Thank you for watching, and that's all for today.